हेलो एवरीवन। इन दिस लेक्चर्स वी विल लर्न अबाउट फॉर्मिक। हम टाइप स्क्रिप्ट के साथ हम इसमें लर्न करेंगे कि फॉर्मिक की बेस्ट प्रैक्टिसेस क्या हैं और किस तरीके से हम रिएक्ट टाइप स्क्रिप्ट में उसको इंटीग्रेट कर सकते हैं। लेट्स स्टार्ट। फर्स्ट वी नीड टू इंस्टॉल फॉर्मिक डिपेंडेंसी। लेट्स इंस्टॉल npm install formic hyphen hyphen save. We don't need to install type for the formic. It's already included inside the formic main library. Let's wait for it to complete. Yeah. After installing Formik, we also need a yup library. Uh, it's kind of a optional, so it's not like a mandatory. We need a yup for the Formik, but it's good to have. So basically, for defining the validations for all the input fields, yup provide a very good kind of a contract. So when we use it, so at that time I will explain you. You definitely will going to like it. Yup. So let's install it. Yeah. Once you install these libraries, after that we need to start our applications. npm start. Yeah. It's started. So if we see here, so it is just displaying a hello world. So now let's me. Yeah. So let's do one thing. So let's create some basic input here for demo, and after that let's include input field. So we will going to use the basic HTML's input here. So we need to define like a ID for this. So let's have the ID like a emails, and after that we need to define a name. I will explain each and everything what is name and what is the use of ID. So for now just follow me. We need to define names, and after that we need to define what type of this input field is. So here we need to define it's a text type input field, and after that we need to define a value also. So for now we don't need to define like a value. So here if you see, let me put here. Yeah. So now if you see, so here we have defined like a one input field. So for emails, so here whatever we display inside this input field, so that values always going to map with a value. So this value will going to contains whatever users will going to enter this input fields, and if we want to render this input field with a pre-selected value, here we can define. So for example, if I want to define some emails here, so I can do that like this. So when I save this thing, so this is how it will going to be appeared here. So I hope it's clear for you for the values. So what is the use of this name? So basically when we will going to submit this form, so this value will going to be corresponding to this name. So basically while creating the input field, so it will going to be like email colon, and this here value will going to become whatever user will going to be enter, for example like this. So this is the name property. So inside the object, so this is the name we will going to use, and this is the value whatever user will going to enter. So this is how we will going to get the data from the input. So names columns and values, and this is the id just like a Unix id for to here it's like a optional. We don't need id, but it's good to have. So when we write the test cases or something, so at that time if we want to use like a data test id, we can use it. And if we want to get this input via the id, then we at that time we can utilize the id. So here is completely optional for us, so we will not going to use it. So for changing the value, we have this inputs provides a on change method. So whenever user will going to interact with this input field, so this on change will going to be fired. So let me show you. So if I add console log here, so if I put, so events dot target dot value. Okay. So when users will going to be enter the some data in this input field, so this on change will going to be fire so with the events. So this event will going to contain lots of informations about this event, this interactions. So on this events objects we will going to have a one target object. So inside that target object we will going to have a value field. So here we will going to get whatever user has entered. So let me show you. So if I remove this, so here I cannot remove. So this we have defined this value as a pre-selected. So let me put this. Yeah. So now this is an uncontrolled component. So I will explain you later what is controlled and uncontrolled. So if you see here, I whatever I removed for the every interactions, this on change will going to be invoked. So here just see this. Let me clear this, and if you see here, I am just entering A, B, and C. Okay. So if you see whatever I am entering for the every change, this on change will going to be fired likewise. So I hope it's clear for you. So how we will going to use this storing this informations from inputs. So this is on change. You got this information key when this on change will going to be fire. In a similar way, we will going to have a on blur events. So this on blur events will going to be fire when users will going to navigate out of this input field. So let me put console log here. So yeah. So if you see here, so we are interacting with this input field. So here on change is firing. When user will going to click outside of this input field. So if you see here, on blur is fired. So I am just explaining this on change and on blur. So basically, when we integrate this Formik, so Formik will going to utilize this on blurs and on change for setting up, just preparing the state behind the scenes. And on blur Formik will going to set some properties like this field is dirty or not. Based on that we can take decisions, we need to show the validations messages or not. So I will explain these things also when we used. So this is the basic structures for the inputs. So when we want to integrate this emails, so let me copy this emails also. Let's add one more for the name. So let's change this to name. Yeah. So here we have two fields. So yeah. So whatever user will going to enters here, so we will going to get that values corresponding to this name emails, and here this input field whatever user will going to be entered, we will going to get that values corresponding to this name fields here we have defined. So how user will going to be submit this form? So we will going to have one button. So let's define that button submit. So the type of this button should be submit. So here we need to define this type to the submit. So basically how forum is work. So when users click on any button which is type of a submit, so on click of this buttons, so the default behavior is the Formik this forum will going to be submit on the same domain from where we are retrieving this information. So for example, so just see this sections. So if I click here on submit, okay, it's my bad. So let's include forum also. Yeah. So let's cut it. So let's define form. So inside forum, let's put each and everything. Yeah. So now we have this forums we have defined. So now if I click on this submit, so on the same route it will going to be submit. So if you see here, so if you see here when I click on this submit, so on the same URL it will going to be submit. Uh, Here if you see this is the name, here we have not entered anything, so that's why it's empty and end name. So likewise in a query in query parameters it will going to pass all the values. So this is the default behaviors of submit buttons when we have a forum. So but here we will not going to like this. So in a previous MVC way, we used to submit the forums on the same controllers where from where we get this view initially. On the same controller we will going to submit, and at that time we will retrieve this. So this is the old way. So now how what is our expectations when user will going to submit on this? So we just need the data. We will going to make the REST API calls behind the scene. So let's do one thing. So this is the basic structures. I hope it's clear for you. So we can also define here like on forum, yeah, we have a submit button. So this is the on submit events. This will going to be fire. So let's put here console log. And one more thing, so we can do one thing, event dots prevent default. So it will going to prevent that default actions, right? So now if we enter some things here, and if we enter some things here, and if you just click on this submit, so it will going to be submit, and this is the events we receive. So if you see here in this event, so this target is the forum. So here if you see, we have the two values. 0 is the email, so here we can get the emails value from the values like this. And second is the name field, so from the names we can get the values this. So this is how behind the scene, this is a simple Java object, so Java events. So this is how a Java prepare JavaScript, sorry, I said Java, so it's a JavaScript. So behind the scene JavaScripts maintain these objects for the every forum. So if we want to maintain each and every things manually, then we need to retrieve all the data from the targets. So Formik provides a very good Formik provides a very good interface, and behind the scene Formik will going to deal each and everything. So on blur what we need to do, on change here we need to stores and save this information. So all these things Formik can do for us. So how we will going to integrate the Formik? So it's very simple. So let's import the Formik. We will going to use hook based forum. So it's like a latest. So everyone, whenever you will going to see, so everyone will going to expect you need to implement the forum in this way. So we don't need to learn the old way. So here, so let's call this use Formik hook. So when we call this use Formik hook, so it will going to return a Formik instance. Okay. So when we call this use Formik hook, so we need to pass the one object. So on this object we have a various properties. So one property is the initial values. So this is the again object. So in this initial values we can define all the initial value for our input. So in our case, if we see, so first inputs we have this email. So here if we see the name of this input field is the email, so we can copy this name. So I am just again reiterating the same things. We need to copy this name, and here we need to pass this name and colon, and here we can pass the defaults value whatever we have. So after that, if we see the second input, we have this name. So let's copy this names and put it here, and here we can pass the initials value for the name. So after this initials value, the next fields we have on submit. So on this submits we will going to receive values. So let's put here log Formik submit, and let's log whatever we have received. So yeah, so here whatever we have received, so we just logs here on submit. So how we will going to integrate these things with this forum? So first steps is just we just need to import this formix, and after that we need to create the object of the formix by calling this use formix hook, and here we need to pass the initials value, and this is the on submit function. So when we submit this form, so this function will going to invoke. So now the second is how we will going to integrate this formix. So we need to use this formix object. So here instead of defining our own submit, so let's delete this. So here we need to define like a formix dot handle submit. So this handle submit will going to behind the scene everything like a prevent the default actions and just preparing the objects, and once it's prepare the objects, so this handle submit will going to invoke this on submit function so with the values. Yeah. So after that we need to integrate this input fields also. So how we will going to integrate this input field? So here like this, so here we need to integrate this formix dot handle change. Yeah. So this is the common handle change function. So this handle change functions behind the scene will going to be prepare the state. So I just show you when users interact with this input fields, whatever you just enter the value, this handle change will going to be invoked. So behind the scene formix what do, it will going to retrieve the current values and just prepare the objects by just using this email like emails colon and current values like this. And oh, it's a initials values dot email, my bad. So that handle change will going to become here formix dot handle change like this. And here on blur, let's remove this. So we need to integrate this handle blur. Yeah, this is all we need to do for the every input field. So this is so now if we see this emails input field is completely integrated. So now we can do for this next input fields we need to do the same things. So here let's remove it. So we need to receive the initials value from the formic. So initial values dot, here we have name, and now let's remove this formix dot handle change, and same for this events. Yeah. So this is all we need to do for integrating the formix with our defaults formic and inputs instance. So now let's clear it. So now if I enter some values here, so for example, oh, my bad, so it should be values, so instead of initial values. Initial value will always going to contain the initial values, and values will always going to contain the latest values. Yeah. So now let's remove these things. So now if I enter some things here, like we have entered this some dummy email ID. Okay. So here if we enter some values, so for example if I enter some all, so when user will going to click on this submit button, so this submit will going to be invoked. So we have integrated this submits here if you see. So now let's click on this submit button. So if you see here, so this form is not going to submit on the same URL. So this behind the scene, this handle submit will going to prevent that default behavior. So if you see here, we receive this object. So this is the email, and this is the value we have entered. This is the names we have entered. So this is what we are receiving by default. So if we want to put some kind of a validations or something, so if you see this how helpful it is. So now we can use these values, and we can make this, we can make our http request to the backend side for storing this informations. So now handling this error is also very helpful using this input. So for example, so let's let's define some validations for this input. So how we will going to define the validations? So for defining the validations, we can use the yup. So let's create here validation schema. So we can use this yup dot object. So yup provides so much function. So it's kinds of a builder pattern. So behind the scene it's just going to prepare one object. So here we will going to define. So we need a one object. So we need to open this objects. So right. So after that, so if we see the first uh, input field, the name of that input field is email. So always make sure this email is this values name. So we need to define these emails here. So first validations we need for this like a required things abc. So we can define like a yup dot, this is the type of okay, let's define type of email. Okay, we don't have email. Okay, so this will going to be type of strings. So after that, it provides so much validation. So if we see here, so it will going to provide like a email validations. So as part of this email validation is just going to be validate it is contain a valid emails or not. So here we can pass a message. So in case this validation is failed, then this message will going to be provided by the Formik to us. We can use that message and we can show on the UI ki this is the message, and we can guide the users in a right direction. So here let's write this is a invalid email address, and after that we can define like a required, and here we can write if this is the validation required. So if it is failed, so here corresponding we can define the corresponding error message. So here we can define like a email is required. Yeah, so in a similar way we can define a validation for this name also. Yup dot, this is type of a strings, and it's just the required, and here we can define name is required. Yeah, so once we define this schema, so after that we need to copy this schema, and please make sure this is the name, this is the emails and name, these things should match this name's values. Okay, so now once we define this, so after that here we have another properties validations schema. So corresponding to this we can define our validation schema. So here key and values name is the same, so we can omit one thing, so we can use like this. Yeah, so here we have defined our validation schema. So now so now so let me do one thing. So here let me log this Formik instance, Formik objects. Just wants to explain few more things. Yeah. So here we have defined this Formik object. So let's me clear this. So now let's remove this value. Okay, so if I remove this emails value, so if you see this Formik, okay, so if you see this Formik, so here it on this behind the scene this Formik will going to be prepare this error field. So on this errors we have this email field. So this is the name of our email field. If we match from here, and corresponding to this email we have a message कि this email is the required, and this is displaying कि this email is the required. So let's me remove it, and if I try to enter some value, and this is not the valid email, right? So if we see the latest Formik objects here, so now if you see inside the error corresponding to the same field email, it is saying कि now required message is not the right because we have entered some things. Now this email validation is kick off. So here it is displaying invalid email address. So right, so this is how we will going to use this information to display the users key. This is the validations. And one more things. Okay, so let's clear this and let's use these properties for now. So here formix dots errors dot email. This is email error message, and let's copy this. This is name error message. Okay, so if we see here, I just remove, let me remove all these values. Yeah, yeah. So if we see here, so when we renders our application, this is how it will going to be rendered. So when users click on this and click outside, so everything is kick off at the same time. So email is required, name is required, something like that, right? So if we wants to, if we don't want to show like this, so we just wants to show on click of submit, every message should kick off. Otherwise, on the touch it should show. So we have here this touch properties. So here we can use this. We just touch this email, so that's why this email is true. So let me clear everything. If I touch this and click outside, so if we see the latest object, so inside this touch, if we see, so here it's saying email is touch, name is touch. Okay, so how this touch will going to be, how Formik will going to be maintain this touch properties. So I just explain you on builder events. So on this on builder events, Formik will going to prepare this object. So on builders, when you just touch this and navigate outside, this on builder is fired. So behind the scene, by receiving this events, Formik will going to prepare this event. So we can use this Formik events. So now we can say like this. So instead of this, we can say like a formix dot touch dot email. If email is touch, and there is the email, if email is touch, and if we have email errors, so in that case we need to display. Otherwise we don't need to display this error message. So here we can define like this. We can use the same thing here. Okay, so in a similar way, here we can use same thing. So let's copy this. Okay, let me put like this. So we can use like a boolean like this, and same here boolean. It will going to convert this in a boolean as true and false. Right, so let's clear this and refresh this. Yeah, so if I enter this emails here, and if we try to enter some emails, and if I click outside, so if you see here, we will going to have message invalid email address. So if I remove everything, so here it will going to display email is required, right? Spelling of required is not correct, so just forgive me. So in a similar way, user will going to touch this name field. So if you just try to enter something, so if you just click outside, it will going to show nothing. So if user removes everything, so at the same time it will going to say name is the required field. So, and one more thing, so let's refresh these things. If you just click on submit, so it will going to display everything. Okay, email is required, name is required, and if you see form is not submitted. So basically, if you see here, so this console log is not appeared. So this on submit is not getting invoked because form is not valid. First users need to provide all the informations. After that, this on submit will going to be called. I hope it's clear for you. So it's just a quick demo for the Formix, and yup, for defining the validations schema. I really encourage you to just take some times and read the documentations and try out each and everything, and please make sure to just read this all this information. It's very very this object will going to be contain so much informations. So I really encourage you to please have some time. So this when we when we encounter like a very complex type of form, this type of fields and this type of functions will come in a rescue when we have some challenge or something. So let's explore these things and just try to implement few more inputs. So with some practice you will going to grasp a very good controls on this Formik. It's very easy. So I hope you like this. Thank you.